go ahead and bring the meeting to order. Looks like we got a quorum.
Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Good to go. We start off with a invocation case. Gary, our esteemed prayer leader, is ninth grade son's football game. And he's going to Venice, so
His grandson.
grandson. So,
He had priorities.
so John, you want to?
Sure.
Lead us?
Stand, please. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and this opportunity to meet together and join together as citizens of this great country, and be with us and guide us tonight and bless us as we go. Forgive us our sins in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just told him that we were 3/4 of the way through the agenda now.
I think the next item is approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Yep.
They've been circulated. Comments were received, if any. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And next item is, we have any,
Hold the citizens report.
I think we ended up having about 5 or so responses from citizens who were in writing. They generally went from abolish the authority and create an airport department, or in the alternative, there were recommendations regarding membership of the airport authority. A lot of those are very similar to what we ultimately ended adopting. So, but thanks to everybody that provided those written inputs. They'll go into the record as far as what was submitted, along with the report and all the minutes. So that's the final update on that. And the next thing we want to do is, John, I don't know if you want to go up there, go over our presentation. It's been circulated to the group. We've got it up on PowerPoint, kind of any. Go over it slide by slide real quick, and then, like I said, it's been circulated before, so there shouldn't be a whole lot of additional comments.
Not moving. You've got some of your personal stuff coming up on your laptop here. Oh, the publicist has got me out of jail.
Trying to be really quick exception for it.
Come quickly.
It's nothing important.
Okay. This is a presentation that we put together. Mike is going to do the presenting next Tuesday, and we're just going to kind of run through it and get everybody's head nod on this one. Plagiarized picture off the airport website. You want to practice, want to do it, Mike?
Yeah, we started off just with the background of how did we get here. We summarized our different meetings, who came to talk to us as we gathered background to give us a good base to make recommendations. And then we looked at other areas of observations, things that we picked up along the way that other members of our committee wanted to make a suggestion, and then we go into a summary and questions. So that's the basic outline. And then within the situational background, we laid out kind of what our purpose of coming together was, who the members were, and our objectives. Just talk about how the airport opened in 2007. You know, there's been obviously a fair amount of discussion about the benefits and cost to the taxpayers. And then the commercialization initiative came along. But clearly, there's been several lawsuits and a lot of, fair amount of public disagreement in commissioner meetings and other avenues. And then the Board of Commissioners established this Citizens Committee to take a look at the legislation and give a fresh perspective on the airport authority. This just outlines all the members of the committee who appointed them and our commissioner advisors that met on a, I guess, an every 2-week basis. Ties back to who appointed them.
Everybody's name spelled right?
Yeah, feel free to chime in if anybody has any comments or typos. It's gone through a few times, but every time you look at it, you might see something different. So really, it just started, the main objective was to look at the Paulding County Airport Authority enabling legislation. We diverged to different areas, but mainly looked at how we got here and all the different points of contention around it, current operations, and the concern about the liability to the taxpayers. As we, first few meetings, we got a lot of information, but our scope definitely came back and narrowed into the making recommendations to the legislative, enabling legislation to focus on the members of the committee to, of the authority to have a better connection to and get more vigorous debate about the direction of the authority. And then our deliverables were to come up with a formal report delivered to the Board of Commissioners on or before the November 11th meeting, so we're ahead of schedule. So these are just a summary of all the different meetings we had. And then we'll go into this real high-level detail. June 5th, we were established and elected myself as chairman and John Dean as secretary. June, we discussed all our objectives, deliverables, and scope, trying to get a hang on what we were going to be doing over the next couple months. We had our first guest speakers in June with Tom Cable and Howard Maxwell, kind of getting a feel for the process of making recommendations, enabling legislation, how all that would work. We got some citizens' comments at that meeting. Then in July, we had Blake speak about some of the airport operations. We established the citizen input guidelines, and we started having more open discussion with citizens attending the meeting. In July, we had several of the members of our committee go to the airport authority meeting to get a feel for their meetings. Then in the end of July, we started having motions. One of the main ones that came up there was that there was a decision that we think that there should be a break in the linkage between the Paulding County Airport Authority and the IBA, and then continue to have open discussion with the citizens with the meeting. In August, we actually had a meeting at the airport with the 5-year plan. I think that was at the day that we put up those stickers and started writing up different ideas about changes to certain sections of the enabling legislation, about bond authority. We went back and forth on whether or not there should be an airport authority or just an airport department as part of the under the Board of Commissioners. Talked about a potential permanent citizens advisory committee. And so that was a pretty robust meeting that time. Feel free to chime in, anybody, if you want to add.
one where Mark made the comment about separating the IBA and the board.
Oh, right. Yeah, so we definitely voted to not have the IBA automatically assigned, have membership on the airport authority. End of August, when we had Stephen Justice with the Center of Innovation for Aerospace, Georgia Department of Economic Development, presented information on how an airport could be an economic development engine for a community, and he did mention that sometimes it's not always well received in the communities. And that was the idea that came up, I forget who brought it up. It was either Todd or Dave Carmichael, about where the Georgia delegation could actually perhaps sit on, or they could caucus and choose a member for the airport authority. We had quite a few folks discuss, from the citizens discussing some of our recommendations. And back on September 11th, we were back in this room, and David Austin addressed the steering committee about the motivation and rationale where the Board of Commissioners approved the intergovernmental contract. And at that point, we really got into focusing on finalizing and making our recommendation through motions and voting on all those. So to summarize the recommendations, first chunk was on airport authority, the membership. We all came to a consensus after some deliberation over the weeks that we wanted to have linkage to locally elected officials, mayor of city of Dallas, Hiram. There's the third bullet is the caucus from the Georgia State Legislature, one member from each of the Board of Commissioners, as well as one member appointed by the chairman of the Board of Commissioners. And then those members would then elect a chairperson, and that chairperson would only vote as a tiebreaker. The last one is that no member of the airport authority can serve on any authorities or boards within Paulding County, which I don't know, Todd, I think, is that a standing rule for other boards?
Yeah, for the
most part. So we incorporated that, which we thought was a good practice. And then we looked into airport authority terms and limits that to make it simple, that each appointee's term would mirror the elected official that appointed them, so you have a rotating basis with new members coming in based on the same election cycles as the person that appointed them. They had to be a resident of Paulding County at the time of their appointment, and to provide new perspectives and to keep folks rotating in and out. The term limits would be limited to 2 consecutive terms, and then they could be reappointed after one of those breaks. We didn't make any changes to the bond section of the enabling legislation. And these are just some other areas of observation that we talked about. One of the things was that the airport authority should consider some type of vision statement. What do they want the airport to look like, or what is their goals for it to accomplish? Definitely establish better communications with the citizens, more accountability with the county government, measured effectiveness of projects, and greater transparency between the airport authority and the county on the business of the airport authority. And summary is to be determined.
It's in order.
Questions?
I got a question.
Let me just go through this. These are just some individual ideas. really specific. There were ideas from the committee members and what they thought that the authority should consider.
There were two of them I emailed out everybody, so I don't know if you saw that email, John. There were two of them.
I ain't been home since lunch.
Okay, so there were two of them that were missing that I had made recommendations for.
Okay.
Sent it about 4:20 today.
So, yeah,
You know what they were?
Yeah, so it was the Airports Authority Board shall establish an email alert notification through the Paulding County government website
That's third from the bottom.
for any unscheduled or emergency meetings.
He's got that.
Okay, I'm sorry, that was me.
I've got all 10 of yours, I'm surprised.
The other one I didn't see, and maybe, is the board shall present its annual FAA capital improvement plan no less than 30 days prior to it being submitted to the FAA.
Post notification of all construction projects 30 days submitted to the board of commissioners.
But that was if they were going for bonds. This one is for the actual annual.
I'll double check, I might have to give you, get the actual word.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any input on this from the committee?
The only thing I saw you may want to change at the very beginning, the airport was opened in '08, not '07. I think it was November, y'all correct me, but I know it was '08. It was either November, December, I think it was November.
Sorry.
I'll actually go back and double check that too.
I think that's right.
I'll input the month and stuff.
Any other comments, suggestions from the committee members? I know you circulated by email, there was a fair amount of
I
discussion.
almost walked over here, I was looking that way.
Y'all did a good job.
Thanks a lot to John for burning the midnight oil, getting that together, circulating it. Did you have a comment?
I did. The one thing I know y'all discussed, and I didn't see it in there, maybe I missed it, but about the people that sit on that committee having the background in aeronautics. I didn't see anything about that recommendation.
We had, if I remember correctly, we had chosen not to actually stipulate that it was that you actually had to have some aeronautical, but that you actually should have a general knowledge of how aviation.
Well, yeah.
But it wasn't something that we were gonna actually put into the language.
We didn't physically vote on it, it's the reason I didn't put it
I
in.
got you.
I think we just decided that elected officials, we leave it in their discretion, that you think that they would choose somebody with aviation
Right.
background or something.
Exactly.
So I think we just didn't want to tie their hands too much. So we're on the agenda for next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, during the working session, during the committees and board reports. So we're gonna be probably limited to,
I believe it was a couple minutes.
yeah, probably 5 minutes, I would say. I will double check with Rebecca, so. When you're kind of looking through this and getting ready for your presentation, you might want to kind of figure out what you want to emphasize on and what you might want us to look over.
So the summary will just be emphasizing points that are already in the presentation, so it's not going to be anything major, but we'll circulate around the group just to ratify it. But, was there any other citizens that had any comments to it?
I noticed there were 2 times that were suggested that the meetings do not start before that, 5:30 and 7 o'clock p.m. I like that you added the 7 p.m. because I think 5:30, a lot of people are still on the road, you know, heading home, whatever. So 7 o'clock seems more reasonable to me.
What I did when I put this up, Larry's original input was 5:30, and after I got to thinking about it, I never got home from Lockheed until probably 6:30 at the earliest. And so I said, well, gosh, you know, why not make it 7 o'clock? So I put his recommendation down with the 5:30 time and the 7 o'clock time, and
Well, as I said.
somebody needs to look at the time.
No, earlier, I mean, I
Yeah.
implied no earlier, so
Yeah.
they can choose as a board as to what time they really want to start.
And there was
I mean,
another
we do
one.
6 o'clock, so.
If you'll notice down, Larry's comment was a marquee sign at the airport. Well, I thought that was a great idea, but we ought to have one out here because there's more traffic out here and more meetings out here. So I put one right under it. And I may go back and try to consolidate them like I did the Times, but this is,
Well, they're recommendations.
the recommendations.
That's all.
You did a great job of putting this together.
See what I learned at Lockheed? Your tax dollars at work.
Well, what's next on the agenda? Approve this report?
Yes, and dismiss.
All right, I make a motion to approve.
Second, third.
Third, fourth.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move we adjourn.
Passes. Motion to adjourn.
Third, fourth.
Appreciate y'all's work.